a bustling hospital, a nurse named Jenny hobbled down the hallway, her limp a constant, rhythmic reminder of a past she kept hidden. The other nurses, younger and faster, often exchanged whispers and rolled their eyes as she passed. "Here comes the tortoise," one would snicker. "How did she even get this job?" Another would add, just loud enough for Jenny to hear. Their words were like tiny needles, pricking at her resolve, but Jenny never let her smile falter. She'd simply adjust her glasses, grip her chart tighter, and continue on her rounds, her focus always on the patients who needed her care. Her days were filled with quiet acts of kindness. She'd spend extra time with elderly patients, listening to their stories. She'd calm frightened children with gentle words and a warm touch. She didn't have the speed of her colleagues, but she had a depth of compassion that was unmatched. The patients adored her, calling her their guardian angel. But to her peers, she was just the slow, limping nurse, an easy target for their petty frustrations. One afternoon, the hospital's atmosphere crackled with an unusual energy. A VIP was visiting a decorated Navy SEAL captain, a man whose reputation for bravery and discipline preceded him. Captain Williams was there for a special ceremony to honor local heroes. The hospital staff buzzed with excitement, lining the main corridor, hoping for a glimpse of the esteemed officer. The younger nurses preened, smoothing their scrubs and fixing their hair, eager to make a good impression. Jenny, however, was in the middle of a difficult task. An elderly patient, Mr. Henderson, was agitated, refusing his medication. He was confused and scared, and none of the other nurses could calm him down. As usual, the task fell to Jenny. She entered his room, her limp more pronounced from the long day. "It's okay, Mr. Henderson," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm. "I'm here. We'll get through this together." She sat by his bed, not as a nurse to a patient, but as a friend. She spoke of her own garden, of the stubborn roses that refused to bloom, and slowly, Mr. Henderson's clenched fists began to relax, just as she finally convinced him to take his medicine. The hospital director burst into the room, flustered. "Jenny, Captain Williams is here. Everyone is waiting." Jenny, caught off guard, quickly finished up and hurried out, her limp feeling more awkward than ever under the director's impatient gaze. She joined the back of the crowd in the corridor, trying to stay unnoticed. The young nurses who had been gossiping earlier shot her disdainful looks, whispering, "What's she doing here? She's going to embarrass us." Captain Williams walked down the hall, his presence commanding, his uniform immaculate. He shook hands with the hospital's top doctors and administrators, his expression serious and professional. The crowd was silent, a sea of awestruck faces. As he moved along the line, his eyes scanned the staff members, nodding politely. Then, his gaze landed on Jenny, half hidden at the very end of the line. The captain stopped dead in his tracks, his steely expression melted away, replaced by one of utter shock, and then profound respect. The murmuring in the crowd ceased. Everyone watched, confused, as the formidable Navy SEAL captain strode past the director, past the head of surgery, and walked directly toward the limping nurse. He stood before Jenny, his posture ramrod straight. The young nurses looked on in disbelief, their smirks frozen on their faces. What was happening? In front of the entire hospital staff, Captain Williams raised his hand to his brow and delivered a sharp, perfect military salute. The gesture was so unexpected, so powerful, that a collective gasp rippled through the corridor. He held the salute for a long moment, his eyes locked on Jenny's. Then he lowered his hand and spoke, his voice booming with emotion, clear for all to hear. "Ma'am," he began, I never thought I'd see you again." Jenny looked up, her own eyes widening in recognition. "It's an honor, a true honor." The crowd was utterly bewildered. The hospital director stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Captain, do—" "No, Nurse Jenny." Captain Williams turned, his gaze sweeping over the stunned faces of the other nurses. "Know her," he said, his voice laced with disbelief. "This woman, this hero, saved my life." He turned back to Jenny, his voice softening. "You were Staff Sergeant Jenny back then, the best combat medic I ever served with." A hushed silence fell over the hospital corridor. Combat medic, Staff Serga Hunt. The words didn't compute. They looked at Janitha, slow, limping nurse and then back at the decorated captain. He continued, his story painting a vivid picture of a dusty, war-torn landscape far from the sterile hospital walls. We were pinned down, he recounted, his voice steady but heavy with memory. An IED took out our vehicle. I was hit, bleeding out. My men were injured. We were surrounded. He looked directly at the nurses who had once mocked her. The bullets were flying like rain. Everyone was taking cover. But not her. Not Staff Sergeant Jenny. His eyes returned to Jenny, filled with a reverence that silenced all judgment. She ran into the thick of it. She dragged 3 of my men to safety, one by one. Then she came for me. She was applying a tourniquet to my leg when a second blast went. Off the captain's voice wavered for a fraction of a second. The shrapnel that hit her leg, the injury that gave her that limp. She got it while she was shielding my body with her own. She saved me, and then she kept working, treating the others, refusing to stop until every single one of us was airlifted out. He took a deep breath, the weight of the memory palpable in the air. She saved my entire team. I am standing here today because of her. My men are alive today, with their families, because of her. The corridor was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The faces of the younger nurses had turned from smugness to shock, turned to a deep burning shame. They had mocked her limp, the very symbol of her incredible sacrifice. They had judged her speed, never imagining the courage that lay beneath her quiet demeanor. Captain Williams gently took Jenny's hand. They awarded you the Silver Star for your bravery, Sergeant. But you were too humble to ever wear it, weren't you? Jenny simply shook her head, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. She had never spoken of her past, not because she was ashamed, but because she didn't see herself as a hero. She was just doing her job, then and now, caring for those in need. The hospital director, his face pale, stepped forward. We had no idea, he stammered. The nurse who had been the most vocal in her mockery couldn't meet Jenny's eyes. Her face was flushed with remorse. In that moment they all saw Jenny for who she truly was. Not the slow, limping nurse, but a giant of courage walking among them. Her limp was not a weakness. It was a medal of honor she wore every single day. The planned ceremony was forgotten. That day, the real hero had already been honored. From that day forward, the whispers in the hallway ceased. They were replaced by greetings of respect and offers of help. The younger nurses began to seek out Jenny's advice, not just on patient care, but on life. They finally understood that true strength isn't about speed or youth. It's about resilience, compassion, and the quiet courage to put others before yourself. Jenny never changed. She remained the same gentle, dedicated nurse, but the way people saw her was transformed forever. And sometimes, she'd catch one of her colleagues looking at her limp, not with pity or disdain, but with a newfound sense of awe and profound respect. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to look beyond the surface, because heroes walk among us every day, often in the most unexpected of guises. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.